Hello guys and welcome to a new Steel Division video today by me Vulcan. Today I have for you game 1 out of 2 games between AmberT and Ddraig in round 3 of the second European tournament. Today we are going to be seeing Odon River, and on the allied side AmberT has chosen the 15th Infantry Scots, and on the Axis side Ddraig has chosen the 16th Luftwaffe. These divisions, very different from one another. The 15th Infantry, one of the strongest divisions in the game currently, and I would say the 16th is probably one of the weakest. The 15th also is a pretty hard counter to the 16th anyway, so I think Ddraig in this game has put himself in a very tough position. There is ways around things, but that mainly will come down to successful ambushes, I would assume. The 16th Luftwaffe, they do have all of the Bren carriers and their multiple variants like the Flak Panzer Bren and the Panzerjäger Bren. There's also Panzer Schrecks, and those in Phase A combined should be able to deal with some of the 15th Infantry armor. But that 15th Infantry armor can be very scary. There's going to be an abundance of honeys, there's going to be AVREs, Churchill 5s, you've got lots of infantry to push up against the 16th Luftwaffe as well. Although on the infantry front, that's probably the only place where I would say that the 16th Luftwaffe has the advantage. But when it comes down to how infantry engages, generally you have fire support there to help them out, and the 15th has an abundance of that. So this is going to be very difficult for Ddraig, and like just being aggressive is probably like one of the hardest things to do with a 16th Luftwaffe. So even if Ddraig doesn't lose, he's not going to be able to win because it's a very static division that would have to press forwards with infantry, which is too slow into the 15th Infantry, who will basically be doing the same back. Have a look at some of these units going down anyway. On the top side here for Ddraig, we see the Panzerjäger Bren. There's also going to be the Flak Panzer Bren. We see a couple units of infantry with the Ddraig. Further down, it's going to be an FK-288, I would assume, with 2 units of infantry and command. Another unit of infantry, more infantry for the bottom side. These can be either Luftwaffe Jäger or Luftwaffe Pioneers for all of the infantry that I've mentioned already. And then you've got the command there with the Panzerjäger Bren following up. On the side of AmberT, at the top we see multiple units of infantry. These could be Bren Group or rifles. They are going to be accompanied by 2 honeys and a command carrier there. There's another 2 units of infantry heading towards the double bridge with a honey. So 3 honeys for the top side with loads of rifles. Then you have a unit going to the chateau here, and it looks like there are Bren Group amongst these rifles. And then on the bottom side it's going to be more Bren Group, a couple of rifles there as well. So the FK-288 has unloaded. Does have a shot all the way down the road. Probably won't be able to do much. Good thing about the FK-288 though is that not only can it fire directly, it can also indirect fire, which is the beauty of that particular weapon. The Flak Panzer Bren accompanying a Luftwaffe Jäger and the Luftwaffe Pioneer to the top side. The Panzerjäger is getting into position, but look at this. That is a lot of forces pushing across here. It's 2 rifles so far. There's 3 more units of infantry coming. The Panzerjäger Bren has just been killed by the honey as well. If these are just more rifles, that could be 50 rifles versus the infantry of Ddraig. But Ddraig's actually bringing in the off-map straight away. If this is placed correctly, it could be really strong, and unfortunately, I don't feel like it has been. AmberT will see this coming a mile off. in terms of AmberT's perspective, he knows that that's an off-map Storch. So, based on his current position, he's going to want to move away from that. He's also going to want to spread out. And that's exactly what he's going to be trying to do here. Now, Ddraig, if he wanted to hit the mark with that artillery, probably should have focused on one side or the other of this tree line, and then had his infantry go to the opposite. That would have been the best way to deal with this, but instead the off-map's going to come down onto this poor old rifle leader. Meanwhile on the map, nothing else is happening, other than the FK-288 trying to provide some artillery fire. But this is not looking good on the top side. These rifles have managed to overrun the command, the Luftwaffe Jaegers, and now the Luftwaffe Pioneer are the only unit left. The Black Panzer Bren is being forced back and will be blown up, and that's a huge salient on the top side for AmberT already. Not looking good. Not looking good at all. Luftwaffe Pioneer is going to find themselves surrendered, even though they did manage to get the grenade onto the rifles. The FK-288 does take a shot at the honey, but miss. So now it's really up to Ddraig to bring back the front line with a couple of infantry here, but this must be some sort of recon because it's not affecting the front line at all. It's probably Fusiliers, and then you've got that followed up by Panzerschreck. So interesting choice. Yeah, it is Luftwaffe Fusilier. But an infantry squad would be useful on the top side just to hold that front line forwards, because currently still 50-50. Ddraig has made a little bit of a push on this bottom side. The command carrier should be taken out by the Panzerjägerbren. The Luftwaffe Führer is assisting the Luftwaffe Pioneer and Luftwaffe Fusilier in pushing forwards. So there is ground being made elsewhere, but another push is coming in. Double honey, assisting multiple units of rifles, going straight across the bridge. Luftwaffe Jäger does manage to hit the Faustpatron and kill one of the honeys, which is very important. The FK-288 is also providing adequate artillery fire, so this push is being pinned. However, so now is the FK-288. The Panzerschreck on the top side, it was taken out by advancing infantry. Luftwaffe Fusiliers have been found. It's only a matter of time until all of the infantry here is pinned, and when that occurs, breakthrough will be in favour of AmberT. Now an AT gun coming down to this bottom side. That is going to be a Pak 38. Assuming that he's trying to counter any use of the honey down here whilst he continues to make ground. But currently 51 to 49% territory. But with these Bren group and rifles continuing to push forwards, I feel like it's only going to get harder from here on out. These honeys just haven't gone down really. This honey died and the Faustpatron found a honey kill, but there's just not enough of them dying for it to really matter. You think of the amount of infantry that Ddraig had invested into on this top side of the map, and it's already been absolutely demolished because he quite simply cannot support it the same way that AmberT can. AmberT has that armor that is very, very good at supporting infantry with its 330 cals in the main gun, whereas these Panzerjägerbrens do not really match up in the same way. But a nice off-map is going to come down here, kills off the command infantry, kills off the Bren group, so decent artillery strike there. Almost allowed the FK-288 to find the kill onto the honey as well. This Pak 38, they're going to have to back off from the rifles in these tree lines. New 109 coming in with the 15 HE power bomb. Stop that aggression, but looks like the FK was taken out. So was he. Panzerjägerbren might win against the honey. That would be once in a while. But probably not today. It's due to the honey falling back into the orchard, hiding itself, making things difficult. Panzerjägerbren on the bottom side is going to fall back as well. The Luftwaffe Fusilier now engaging Bren group at range. At this sort of range, the Bren group don't actually do too bad, but the Luftwaffe Fusilier, they do have a decent amount of HE, but not a crazy amount. So There is damage being thrown onto these Luftwaffe Fusilier, and with the help of the honey, again, the infantry is just going to have to fall back. And Ddraig's front line is looking really, really quite awful right now. Especially on the top side. This is Luftwaffe Jäger, Pak 38, Panzerjäger Bren. It's got to hold back 3 honeys. I just don't see it happening. However, Pak 38 does manage to find the shooter wound onto the honey. So it's going to be reliant on infantry pressing forwards to counteract what Ddraig has managed to do here. Like getting across this river is very important. Like having at least one place on the map where you can get across is very good on Odon River. For AmberT though, he has 2 places across and therefore has found himself a lot of ground on this top side. 2 minutes until phase B will be a very long wait for Ddraig as AmberT continues to make ground. Ddraig's going to be bringing in some recon to just keep an eye on things, but probably going to be pretty low on infantry availability. There has been a lot of infantry kills, and you can see how quickly these Luftwaffe Jäger are falling to the honeys here. That's the problem. There's nothing to deal with those honeys properly. Now the FK288s are often a choice that people will make over the Panzerjäger Brens, but possibly he didn't really believe that the FKs could get the job done. Losing the Panzerjäger Bren on this top side up here at the very beginning didn't help the current situation. See now that the Panzerjäger Bren is even failing against a honey that's almost entirely pinned down. The ME109 G2BR21, well that's just the G2R1, sorry, is going to bomb that honey to stop it from killing the Panzerjäger Bren, but when you're bombing a tank to stop it killing a Panzerjäger Bren, you're probably in a very bad position already. Nice job though by the Pak 38, does find the kill onto the honey on the bottom side, which is allowing this aggression from the Luftwaffe Pioneers, but due to the amount of men that are holding the ground in this town, there's no way that this Luftwaffe Pioneer is going to be able to get the job done. It only has 2 grenades at the end of the day, so that's 2 rifle squads down to like 4 men. And whilst the rifle leader's still up, none of these guys are going to surrender, so I don't think one Luftwaffe Pioneer is going to be enough. However, the BEO Storch could get the job done, that's for sure. A nice off-map strike into the middle of the town, or even onto the back side of the town, would be really, really nice. So, here we go. I have to come back and keep an eye on that. But meanwhile, on the top side, new command carrier has come in with the rifle leader. We see some scouts being unloaded by the universal carrier, and the Panzerjäger Brens still being forced back. Luftwaffe Fusiliers being absolutely annihilated. But since we have moved into phase B, you can see Ddraig going to be investing in a Stug 3 to counter the use of the honeys. That's going to be accompanied by some infantry. Now on the off map, going to be coming down. If this hits the mark, which it looks like it will do, then there is potential for the Luftwaffe Pioneers and so on to push on forwards and try and find some surrenders. Just needs the rifle leader to be pinned as well. Now, the Panzerjäger Bren going to try and get aggressive, but this is a rifle leader and it does have the Piat. Going to be hoping that he can hit the mark with that, but actually the Panzerjäger Bren gets out of line of sight before the Piat can fire, and that is causing some issues. But wow, the grenades of the rifles take it out. The Piat not even needed. On this top side, it's just looking very rough indeed. The fact that AmberT has such a strong position on Ddraig's side of the river is just so damn important, because it allows him to get across the river so freely, but also like much easier to defend and be annoying in this kind of terrain that it is by these very close choke point bridges. Now for this bottom side, Bofors has been brought in, so that's going to stop the use of the ME109 G2R1s for now. We'll also force back the off-map if it gets close. However, I believe all of the off-map strikes will probably have been used, so that will just be a straight-up recon aircraft for the time being. So the off-map did allow the Pioneers to get into the town here, but the advance of the Luftwaffe Führer, I feel, is ambitious. If that Luftwaffe Führer goes down, then these Luftwaffe Pioneer will swiftly be surrendered. So moving them that far forwards, in my opinion, is a very bad idea. They're going to want to just smoke themselves. Okay. They are dead. Rifles can jump forwards now, find a surrender if they would like to. MG271 has been brought in though. Right in the face of the Bofors. And that 271 can definitely do a lot of damage. Nice thing about these machine guns is they do have 7 accuracy, and with a little bit of veterancy from some command can do a ton of damage, but in this case will likely just be pinned in the face of all of these units. Elsewhere on the map, the Big 3s, they're trying to recover this position and are starting to get some shots onto the Honeys, which is good. Taking out these rifles will give back quite a bit of ground as well. But AmberT being very, very frustrating with the universal carriers here, trying to cut off this entire bottom side of the map. So nice play by AmberT just to try and solidify the victory. Brings in a Spitfire Mark 9 to try and go for the storage, but doesn't want to get baited into an engagement against the ME-109s, since he has seen one of those on the field. He tries to chase the storage, and that could end badly, but AmberT has brought in a 17 pounder, finds a kill onto the Stug 3 on the very top side, and that is not a place that Ddraig wants to be in, because with the 2 Stugs up and running, he can potentially take out the Honeys, but as soon as there is a 17 pounder on the field and he hasn't got any artillery left, it's not great. He does have artillery, but it's just not on the field. The 80mm mortar deploying way too late here. Can now see an 88 on the way. 88. That might be able to help out a little bit, but honestly, look at this territory gain on the bottom side here for AmberT. He cut off all of these forces. I say all of these forces, the and the Pak 38. And therefore push the territory to +3, which is giving him a lot of points. He's got over 1,000 now. Another Stug 3 falling prey to the same 17 pounder. I feel like Ddraig maybe just didn't realise what killed his initial Stug and ran into the same 17 pounder again. Because on this bottom side there is the lack of recon. He cannot see that far ahead of himself, therefore has been caught out for a second time. That time around, I would have hoped that he missed what killed his tanks and therefore won't let it happen again. In that, it's pretty unlikely that he actually has any more tanks he can use until Phase C, because the Stug 3s do have a severely limited amount of availability with the 16th Luftwaffe. The Pak does get taken out down here. The MG is dead. One of the universal carriers is going to be cleaned up by the Luftwaffe Jaeger, which does give some of the land back to Ddraig. But very, very tough position here for Ddraig, and feels like he's just going to be on the defensive for the rest of the game, since the 16th just doesn't have that pushing power to break through and push back. Like, even if he killed both of the Honeys, I feel like it wouldn't matter. He wouldn't have the forces to just push back anyway. And that is the biggest difference here. The MG271, that's going to be hitting the Bren group. We do see the Panzerschreck managing to find a kill onto the Honey. That really didn't happen enough in the early game, honestly. Those Panzerschrecks just weren't that effective, and that is a problem. The SFH, that's going to be trying to do some damage here to any infantry that's advancing. It can also kill things at close range with the 10 AP, but whether or not it actually will, wait and see. Because at the moment, AmberT doesn't have to be that aggressive. he can just sit where he is, force Ddraig to try and push back, and considering this is how Ddraig needs, like, can push basically with infantry. The only way that Ddraig can make this work is if he has maybe some more like mortars come in and provide smoke. Just like get an infantry advance going in the face of all of this fire support. Because currently, the Luftwaffe Jaeger, like, they're going to fall prey to the Universal Carrier Honey. If those were smoked off, then the Luftwaffe Jaeger would have to deal with rifles. At close range, rifles do still win, but at a little bit of longer range, the Luftwaffe Jaeger should win. So that's something that Ddraig may be able to do, but it's a long way off. Bofors does go down there. We did also see a Honey fall prey to the 88, I believe. Unless it was the Flaxwilling that killed it, which very much could have been the case. The Flaxwilling does have 24 HE, and if it continues to hit the mark, then it definitely get a shot in. But as we can see, AmberT has now invested in the Priest, and that will start to counter things like the Flaxwilling, like the Flak 36, and with those units out of the picture, that's pretty much the front line gone for the most part. The other thing that's annoying for Ddraig is he's relying on the SFH 396, which he can try and use to counter battery the Priest, but it's very unlikely that the Priest will go down, because it would require almost a direct hit, whereas the Priest can take out the SFH 396 quite easily. So that's something that AmberT may try and do, but probably more focused on trying to kill off the 88s at this point. However, the infantry getting right on top of that 88 is not ideal. One of these assault pioneers should just run forwards and get the grenade off. That's the way that I would do it. Just have a assault pioneer just charge on forward rather than wait and let it fire multiple times, especially with the artillery coming in bottom side. Whether that artillery is likely to be alive for much longer, as there is a lot of aggression coming in down here. That's 5 units of rifles making their way across the field, accompanied by a Honey. It's also expanding the Bofors. They're both going to have to roll their way over to the road, though. The Flak 36 falling back, recon aircraft, just allowing Ddraig to watch his defeat, because at this moment in time I just don't see a way that Ddraig can ever bring this back. The Stuur 42 has been brought in, but straight into the face of a 17-pounder. Now, there is potential that Ddraig could sort of fire position just to the right side of this 17-pounder and therefore not be in line of sight. Find the pin. Maybe something that Ddraig tries to do, but more concerned about the infantry that's making its way through these forests, which is fair enough. Spitfire Mark 9 coming in for the attack onto the Storch. Let's find the kill. Flaxwilling may return it though, because that thing can be awfully deadly. Not quite. Unless the 88 comes in strong with a solid kill, but it being pinned, not going to be able to get the job done. Priest comes in with the artillery as well. Nice kill though for the bottom side. Pack 40 takes out the Honey, removes that fire support from the rifles as they continue to push across the field. MU-109G2R1 is going to get on the back of the Spitfire. Not able to find the kill though, denied by the Bofors. 2 minutes now until the end of the game. Pretty sure from the start AmberT's had this one on lockdown. The double Honey push really worked out well. Alongside all of that infantry, just absolutely overwhelmed Ddraig's defenses on the top side. And that left him in a position where he could control Ddraig's side of the river from the start of the game, and that is a very good position to be in as you continue to develop your front line. So for example, bringing in the 17 pounders to take out the Stug 3s, like it only gets better really for the 15th Infantry against the 16th Luftwaffe. Rifles, again, just pushing forwards. An abundance of rifles is something that AmberT certainly has. Going to be bringing in a second priest as well that will be looking for the counter battery onto the SFH 6. MU109 G2R1 coming in with a bonus strike onto the top side will be able to pin these infantry that are making ground, but only delaying the inevitable at this point. Comes that artillery onto the H396. Ddraig is actually going to be investing in some Citroens as a unit you see very often. Let's have 6 HE and some armor. Pretty useful actually against rifles when they do not have that AT to work with. So potential here that these rifles could go down to the Citroens, but 6-pounder is in position. It's only a matter of time until it fires away and starts to pin down those units. Goes one. Force a fallback. Back 40 may be able to save the day here, but that's the end of the game nonetheless, as AmberT does reach the 2,500 points after 23 minutes and 22 seconds. So that is a dominating performance for AmberT. 1,775 kills to 1,250 losses. Ddraig, unfortunately, I felt like just lost it with the division choice. You're going with the 16th Luftwaffe into one of the best infantry divisions. So even if you manage to get like a play going with your own infantry, you're going to get countered by their infantry. And you could see the difference in the amount of rifles that AmberT had compared to the 16th Luftwaffe. 16th Luftwaffe, it's not like they have bad infantry. Like, Luftwaffe Pioneers are really nice for Phase A, but they just can't get the job done if they aren't supported by anything significant. And Black Panzer Brens are great, but the Panzerjäger Brens are just absolutely trash in comparison to Honeys, for example, on the side of the 15th. So that's a big problem that the 16th has, and therefore forces them to play quite defensively until they can possibly rely on those Stugs. But even when the Stugs come in, they're not an aggressive vehicle because they are an assault gun. They can't turn their turret. They don't have a turret. So problem, and trying to be aggressive without a turret is like just waiting to be ambushed by a tank that does have a turret and a faster aim time because of it. So not really too much to point out, just some of these rifles getting a lot of kills. Look at that one, claiming 3 Luftwaffe Pioneer, Luftwaffe Führer, Panzerjägerbrenn and MG271 kills. That must be some surrenders in. That is ludicrous for a rifle unit. In terms of losses, the Flagswilling, it killed the Honey, yeah. And then we see the Panzerschreck killing a Honey there. The off-map just really didn't hit the mark very well on the top side initially. It did hit well on the bottom, onto the town, that was nice. But allowing the on to be killed when the Buffer Pioneers went aggressive was a bit of a silly mistake. Either way, Ddraig gave it his best shot with probably one of the worst divisions in the game versus AmberT, a fantastic player with one of the best divisions in the game. And I guess it could have gone just a little bit worse, but maybe not too much more worse. Either way, hopefully you guys have enjoyed it. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Goodbye.